So let's get started with the lesson 3. Where we are standing, this is a third part, how the aging reversal programs and strategies works. What are the tricks behind it? What is the science of aging about? How actually aging can be stopped and reversed? That's the most important question we will talk today. We will see the samples of scientific studies, which are talking about influences of different substances and different strategies on our aging. We will also see how important is the aging and the longevity or the epigenetic state for our cells to be without cancer, without cardiovascular disease, how it prevents even dementia or diabetes. We will talk also about all the protocols that scientists and their families are using every day already today. And we will talk very briefly about some funny stories, how actually reverted aging influence fertility and libido. And I have picked up one beautiful study from Cara Fitzgerald, which has been important also for worldwide press and worldwide announcement. Even we will see also CNN has talked about it. And name of the study is actually potential reversal of epigenetic age using a diet and lifestyle intervention. So this is a clinical trial. It's a fully randomized pilot from 2021. You can have in the details also a link for this research. And that's been performed purely with the strategies which anybody can try to replicate. It's been used on the trial group of 43 healthy adult males, which has been aged between 50 and 72, and it lasts only 8 weeks, so 2 months. And it's been including diet, sleeping patterns, exercise monitoring, relaxation and guidance around physical activities, and a little bit of supplemental probiotics and phytonutrients. So let's see what was the result. So this complete group has been divided between a control group and the rest group, which took all these strategies and interventions. These groups has been tested with the already mentioned DNA methylation analysis on Illumina methylation epic array, and has been calculated with the Horvath DNA MH, this clock foundation we had mentioned already in a previous lesson. And the result was astonishing. Only during those 2 months, with only these simple strategies with nutrition, exercises, and management, they have gained a difference between control group 3.2 years. So actually, the group with intervention has been rejuvenated measurably with the DNA measurement more than 3 years, just with these simple strategies. You can see it even here. Every dot represents one participant. This group of yellow dots is the control group, and their average has been, yes, in 2 weeks, they had been even a little bit older. This is somewhere between. But the blue dots represents all those participants which has been taking all these recommendations and all these strategies, which are far below, and in average, it's a less or difference between the yellow and blue line, which represents average, is 3 years. And you can see even 9 years difference with some of those participants. Another very important personality is Dr. David Sinclair, which actually started also my interest in the epigenetics and the science of aging. Dr. Sinclair has issued a very important publication called Lifespan, or Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to, and has a very comprehensive series of videos and podcasts, both on the YouTube and on the other platforms. And we will talk a little bit about the scientific results of Dr. David Sinclair directly from his book. And it was a story of his colleagues where they have started to work with the mice. And one anecdotal story was about mice which actually has been doing problems with their running treadmills. Actually, the problem was that the mice, which has been indicated with NAD supporting substances for DNA reparation, has actually broken the treadmills, despite they had been in an age corresponding to a human 65 years old. And actually they have running marathons on a mice scale, or ultra marathons, that running thousands of meters. So actually, it's been also mentioned on CNN. This has been called a Benjamin Button effect, that actually Dr. Sinclair has been able to prove and revert the youth to mice with these molecules. And yeah, they just understood how to make the old cell and reverting back almost to a stem cell if they don't stop it. So actually the specification, proliferation of these cells has been able to be reverted to a very young state of epigenetics. So the question is, why actually these mice had turned to be marathon runners? What's been the strategy behind was that actually they raised NAD plus levels, which resulted in remodeling of the tissues of the small capillaries and their densities. So they actually gained much better endurance despite they had been quite old. And they had been moved back to very youthful levels of their stamina, of their performance. And they've been able to perform even exercises like ultramarathons. And it's been already mentioned also in this study. You can search online, and which will be also part of the details and comments to this course. So the questions are, why should we extend our health span? How should we, or why? What are the good reasons? Is it just our goodwill, just something you are just looking better? And reasons are also dramatically providing economical impacts. In the United States, the most important disease is that 1.8 billion US dollars are spent for cardiovascular diseases, which is impacting around 11 or almost 12% of US population. Cancer as a second one with almost 10% population, which is taking from budget of US citizens almost 6 billion of US dollars, and followed by Alzheimer's disease, which impacts 3% of population, but impacting your budget by almost 2 billions. And it's interestingly obesity, which impacts almost every third American and decreases lifespan of lives by almost 10 years, is covered just by 1 billion US dollars. And here we come to a very important conclusion. It's a life-changing understanding to prevent most and all of those civilization diseases and problems. There is a single one opportunity to decrease actually your biological age and extend your health span with the exercise, diet, or boosters of these mechanisms, which is called NAD+. You can see a significant improvement and age reversals of all these tissues, from brain and nerves, livers, your vascular system, your heart, your lymphoid tissues, reproductive organs, your kidney, pancreas, your muscles, your general exercise performance, and also adipose tissues. And if I can just make citation from this perspective, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and other age-related illness may not necessarily be separate diseases themselves. Rather, they seem to be symptoms of something more larger and unique, unifying. And actually that aging itself is the underlying disease. So if you can treat aging as a disease, you can treat all those follow-ups from cancer, cardiovascular disease, and other problems. So we have been talking about sirtuins in the past episode. We were talking about sirtuins as a DNA reparation mechanisms. They actually work very interestingly as the switch between cell replication and cell reparation. When the cells in your body or your body as a whole system sustains ages or problems, they switched their replication and start to correct all the problems that have been accumulated. So actually they are protecting us against age-related diseases like diabetes, heart diseases, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, and even cancers. And the sirtuins also reduce our chronic inflammations, so they are preventing our arteriosclerosis, metabolic disorders, artery disease, and even asthma. And sirtuins also act as an active support from cell death, because they are powering our mitochondria, our powerhouses. It's very important to support sirtuins also to maintain muscle mass and prevent macular degeneration of your eyes. And also other studies show that it's significantly improving our memory and boosting our mental cognitive capabilities and endurance, both physically and mentally, regardless of our diet. That's how important it is to understand sirtuins as a DNA reparation mechanism and understand how to be supported. You can see also an example from one of the most pronounced magazine, Nature. So actually that such praise for abilities of sirtuins is by no means exaggerated. Their effects and scientifically substantiated by peer-reviewed studies published in journals like Nature, Cell, and Science. Those are words from the David Sinclair, author of Lifespan publication. You can see also several explanations and names, titles of the articles, and actually you can search thousands of articles which are naming sirtuins and the methods in past years. And it started already a decade ago. And they are talking all about how healthy and how corrective their mechanism can be on our cells and our health. So here we are coming to the expected and anticipated strategies. What actually can activate sirtuins to fight your longevity and stop your aging? There is many strategies, and all which are highlighted red are part of our program. So we are focusing now in this lesson on calorie restriction, on using resveratrol, on NAD plus support. We are implementing intermittent fasting and fasting as a strategy generally. We are using fisetin, quercetin, spermidine, oleuropein, which is a compound of olive oil, and a compound of berberine. Those are just over-the-counter available supplements. What are additional pathways which activates these strategies, which are actually called adversity mimetics, because they are trying to simulate bedtimes, they are trying to simulate possible threats to our cells. First goal we are using, or a strategy, is to pretend to your cells that there is a threat of not enough food, basic energy source, which is sugar, so that blood sugar levels is as low as possible. So we are trying to maintain your sugar level as steady as possible without any changing. And one of the best approach to achieve it is to perform intermittent fasting. We will talk about it later in a separate nutrition episode. We will talk separately also on the oxygen fluctuations. Your cells can be also in the adversity mode when you are keeping your breath shortened several times a week, just with simple exercise in a state of hypoxia. So both excess and also deficiency temporarily are good for starting these mechanisms. So actually, anaerobic metabolism, anaerobic exercises are initiating these strategies. So subset of goals is also expecting activation of AMPK, which is a specific enzyme, we will talk, and the method pathway, which also indicates to cell that there is a shortage in energy activation. So they're trying to produce more ATP energy, chemical energy for your cell, and creating more mitochondria, so your cells have more energy available with less resources. And the second goal is also mitohormesis, where you're directly performing respiratory shortage, and your mitochondria are provided with a more build out, with more energy. We are continuing with the third goal, where we can simulate also extreme temperatures, like in the sauna or emerging into cold bath. Fourth goal is protein deficiency, where you can perform fasting without proteins, or limiting animal proteins at least, which are mostly indicated as a shortage. And fifth goal or fifth strategy is exposure to specific molecules, xenohermetic molecules, which from plants are also indicating to your cells there is some danger around, start your reparation. So briefly around about AMPK, with specific protein kinase. It's crucial for cellular energy. It's sensitive for availability of your sugar. And actually with their regulation, you can perform homeostasis of energy to be developed and impaired. There is a couple of health benefits of AMPK activation, starting with the fat burning, reducing inflammation, and extending lifespan. If we are just continuing how to activate AMPK as another, after sirtuins, another method or pathway, you can perform it very similarly with a metabolic stress, with exercises, caloric restriction, with metformin. We are using berberine, resveratrol, alpha-lipoic acid, fatty acids, green tea extracts, and of course, deprivation of glucose or fasting. We have discussed also mitohormesis, and actually what it means is that it's exposure to low doses of an agent or some situation which would be otherwise lethal or dangerous, but your cells will treat it as a bad time and they will just start to repair itself. There is able to perform also mild stress to your mitochondria, and results will be your improved health, your tolerance to stress, and growth of your organism, your cell proliferation and longevity. These are factors which can be used for mitohormesis. Similarly, also caloric restriction. You can see repeatedly intermittent fasting. We are also implementing some phytochemicals, supplements, and hypoxia with the exercises. There's another factor which is called mTOR, and this is critical for cellular growth and metabolism, which is crucial for maintaining homeostasis and responding to environmental cues. And dysregulation of this mTOR, so you have to prevent it from being switched, is also linked to diseases like cancer, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and neurodegenerative diseases. mTOR can be inhibited, to be stopped, to be understood as abundance, with the caloric restriction, AMPK activation, redox status, and with several compounds like resveratrol, curcumin, quercetin, berberine. Of course, another one, intermittent fasting, protein diet, and you can see also hypoxia repeatedly, also for mTOR. And now, just very briefly, what actually scientists and their families do, what strategies they are implementing. And this is also a brief story from the book of Dr. Sinclair. He was talking with his father, which started to take one of these supplements, and he was clearly saying after 6 months that he just don't feel as tired anymore. Things has been which hurt him before already doesn't hurt him as much, mentally more alert, much doing better than his friends, and he just don't feel so miserable anymore, despite he was more than 70. And his performance was also visible on his exercises, where he was much better performing than his peers in fitness or in gym. And also his doctor was very surprised by his liver enzymes, which had returned to normal. And the last interesting anecdote you can read in the Dr. Sinclair's book was that actually one of his students came back to him because his mom also started to supplement with one of these compounds, and he just came to him with some problem, and he was first quite shocked that actually something bad happened to his mother, but he just with a silent whisper said that actually the problem is that his mother's cycle has been restarted. So actually, that's one of the most impacting possibility for fertility and for libido is that actually your organs, your ovaries, if you're a woman, can be even restarted, which was almost scientifically, medically considered as a miracle. Okay, so this is end of our lesson 3, and soon we will continue with lesson 4 with the exercises.